Just to remind you, the couples, after the service, we will have our first bowling tournament. Just bowling. Prepare your back, because I know tomorrow those who will be playing bowling today, this afternoon, tomorrow, it will be very hard to get out of the bed. Okay? So anyway, today we'll just continue our study with regards to our teachings of knowing God. And today I would like to talk about the importance of knowledge in deepening relationship with God. What I'm saying is, without knowing somebody, it is quite difficult to deepen your relationship with someone. Knowledge about someone is very, very important. And that's what we would like to talk about today. Oh, what happened here? I'm sorry about that. Okay, we'll go on our study about the importance of knowing somebody in order to deepen our relationship with God. Now, of course, our topic is about God, but later I will try to blend understanding what we just have done, ushering those married couple into a new kind of life, stages of life, and trying to understand it, use it in order to understand what we should know about God. Now, in this world today, a lot of people, perhaps we could say, do not believe in God or agnostic about God, which means they believe somehow, but they don't really believe. Okay? So somehow there is a God, but it's irrelevant whether I know about God. And a lot of people are basically wanting proofs from those who believe in God to prove them that there is God. Now, some people will say, I talk with some people, why don't you believe in God? Oh, it's so hard to understand God. But if only God will appear before me, perhaps I could understand and believe in God. Have you heard those kind of reasoning? If there is God, why don't He just appear and show Himself to us? And perhaps if He showed Himself to us, then we would know and believe in that God. Or some people say, well, if God would give me a sign or a miracle, then perhaps I will believe in God. If one day a lovely or a handsome man would just come in and propose to me, and a rich man and a well-off man and God give it to me, then perhaps I would believe in God, a miracle and a sign. And some people will say, well, if God would only grant my request, I have been wanting this thing in my life. Now, if there is God and I pray and He give me these things, then perhaps I will believe in God. You see, that's the very thing that people ask, a proof that there is God. But my question is, if God will appear, does it mean you will believe in God? That's not necessarily follow. Even in fact, in the Old Testament, the people saw the glory of God in Mount Sinai, but many of them did not really continue to be faithful to that God. A lot of people saw Jesus Christ make miracles, but how many of them really believe in Jesus? Not many, perhaps only 12, as mentioned, and some other people who followed Him. In other words, what we're saying, the question is, will this experiential knowledge of knowing and seeing God deepen our belief and relationship with that God? It's a question. If God showed Himself to us, all of us are Christian here, would that make a difference with your relationship with Him? That's my question. Will you love God much better if God will appear to us today? I don't know. Because appearance alone does not guarantee a deeper relationship. What is important is this. True knowledge of God would lead to a deeper relationship. It's not appearance. What I'm talking about today is the true knowledge of God that would lead to a deeper relationship with God is to know His mind, His will, His heart, and to be one with Him and committed with Him. Even if you know God, but you don't understand His will, His purpose, the way He thinks, and you don't grasp what it means, it does not mean anything. Just like here, I'm standing here before you as a pastor. You know me Sunday after Sunday as a pastor. Our relationship is between a congregation and a pastor. But my question is, will you give your life to me? Will you commit with me in whatever I do? Not necessarily. Because you do not really know what is the innermost being of who I am. And so deep relationship goes that way. And just try to look at example of some passages that we could read from the scripture. Jesus Christ, in discussing with some people, He said, I am the good shepherd. I know my sheep and my sheep know me. Just as the Father knows me, and I know the Father, and I lay down my life for the sheep. You notice here, the relationship between Jesus and the Father, and the sheep and the shepherd, is based on knowledge. He's saying this relationship, they are my sheep, and I am their shepherd because of knowledge. My Father knows me, and I know the Father, and God knows that I'm going to lay my life for Him, for the sheep that God gave me. And Jesus Christ as well taught to His disciples, I no longer call you servants, because a servant does not know his master's business. Instead, I have called you now friends. For everything that I learned from my Father, I have made known to you. You notice that friendship was based on what you have known. Do you follow? And let's go quickly and let's try to analyze the deep meaning of that. Now, the word to know, or ginosko in Greek, means simply to understand, to perceive, have a knowledge of something that you really don't know. So to know is to have a perception of someone or of something. Knowledge is important in relationship. It can either, knowledge is so important between two people. Do you agree with me? You cannot develop friendship without the knowledge of something about that friend. Okay? But knowledge about somebody is quite crucial, because if I have a friend or a partner, it's either by knowing him, I would rather admire that person or be disillusioned with him. Do you follow what I'm saying? Knowing somebody could cause you either to admire that somebody or to be disillusioned with him based on what you will know. Agree or disagree? There's somebody saying, do you agree with me? Because sometimes you admire somebody and you look at a person, but the moment you come closer and a character is revealed in that person, it's either you will continue to admire or you will turn your back. You'll get frustrated. It's either it could bring togetherness or alienation. You would become, I like to be with him. When I know that, that person, the more I want to be with him. Or to say, I'm cutting off my relationship with that guy. By just knowing something about that person, it can either cause commitment or estrangement. Based on the knowledge. I remember Jack, who is one of our members of our church, the biggest guy in Dubai. And before that, he said, I admire this particular person. I don't want to mention name about this popular celebrity. But one time I met a taxi driver, and this taxi driver told me that guy, that popular guy, rode in his car, and he was so arrogant, and he was so he's crazy. And because of what he said, I don't admire that guy anymore. Notice how it can change perception of life. So knowledge about a person could either make our relationship grow stronger or it could dissolve our relationship. Now, couples and would-be couples and post-couples, I would like to use this. This may not be biblical, but I tried to see this and research this. And people talk about stages of deepening relationship, especially between husband and wife. You know? There are 6 basic stages. First of all is to get the stage where you say, get to know stage. This is a time of courtship. You want to know. Now the problem in this get to know stage in relationship is that you really don't know the person. Because both of you would put your best and hide that one that is ugly. And so both of you are impressed because you are impressing one another. And that's the get to know stage. That's the time that you want to know better and all these things. But simply because you are attracted, it doesn't matter. And then, when you get married, you enter into what we call the romantic stage. They say this is 100 days after marriage. But everything is simply roses. And simply because you are just on a vacation, you just simply, you are just so excited to have this man and this woman beside you. Everything is so romantic. You ignore the ugly things simply because you have got what you want. And it's what we call romantic stage. But then, this stage in relationship does not continue. It enters into a new one. After getting used to eating out, because you cannot go out all the time, you cannot go to the park every day, you cannot go to the movie house every day, the time will come that you will run out of money and both of you will stay at home, and then you start to realize that kind of person that you marry. And all of a sudden, in marriage, we say, this is the time that this illusionment happened. The Romeo is now Juan. Is no longer. And Juliet is no longer Juliet. He is now Juliana. Things have changed. The man that was courting you every time you went out of the room, he would open the door. Now all of a sudden, he goes ahead of you and you even care about the door. Disillusionment. Am I right, couples? You start to question, what is this? All of a sudden, the beautiful picture starts to crumble. The ivory starts to become rusty. And ivory becomes rusty. It becomes a disillusionment. Don't worry, you will enter into this because and then it enters into what we call the power struggle stage. Now, because you're so disillusioned, and you start now demanding, both of you are expecting a lot of things from one another, you start pressuring, he starts or she starts pressuring you, and now you talk about who's right and who's wrong, who's better, I'm better, no, I know better, my mom's better than you. And all these things, it becomes a power struggle. There is a struggle going on. Who is better? My family is better. We do things much better. Oh, your family is like this. And who's the boss in the house?